In the depths of the universe lies a story that defies imagination, a tale of forces shaping reality as we know it. Antimatter fluctuations and magnetic fields aren't just concepts. They are the architects of galaxies and the foundation of the stars. What if the Big Bang was merely a moment in an endless process of creation, a cycle of division and reunion? This perspective transforms our understanding, revealing a universe that thrives on perpetual motion and reinvention. Magnetic and gravitational forces work in harmony to hold the universe together, balancing chaos and structure. These forces not only govern the cosmos, but also unlock the potential for travel beyond the speed of light, moving through plasma fields where time and space blur into an unrecognizable reality. These are the principles that redefine the boundaries of science and hint at humanity's potential to explore worlds far beyond our own. Beyond scale and speed, the universe challenges the limits of perception itself. Cold, heat, and sound shift in meaning, shaped by environments where the rules of physics break down into something far more intricate. Here, boundaries aren't static. They expand, split, and create entirely new realms. These processes are not mere speculation, but the very mechanics that drive the cosmos, offering us a glimpse into the origins of everything we see and know. As humanity seeks to understand these phenomena, we find ourselves on the brink of a transformational moment. What secrets lie beyond the observable universe? How do these forces connect us to the broader cosmic system? These are the questions that will define the future of discovery, propelling us from passive observers to active participants in the unfolding mysteries of creation. The exploration begins now. Antimatter and the universe origins. Therefore, one can only travel faster than the speed of light in a matter environment if one can create and/or capture principal matter or transition matter, plasmatic magnetic field strength in a magnetic gravitational interactions positioning reactor. In the matter environment, you can travel with matter and matter machines at the speed of light. If you don't use matter and matter-matter antimatter fluctuations, there are no speed limits in this environment because you can go faster than the speed of light in the matter environment when you use principal matter-antimatter fluctuations strength in the cores of the magnetic gravitational interactions systems, where the speed of light in the principal matter environment is millions of times faster than the speed of light in the matter environment. There are risks with magnetic and plasmatic fields before traveling at any speed in the universe. If we use a stronger magnetic field strength, the theory that the speed of light is the ultimate speed of travel no longer holds true. Thus, one can travel the spans of the universe by using higher-order matter-antimatter fluctuations, with speeds millions of times faster than the speed of light in matter's strength, like on the Earth's surface. Because the PMF of human body cells contains molecules of principal matter, a man traveling at the speed of light, or thousands of times faster than light in the universe, will not experience any difference. He will behave similarly to the jetliners of previous centuries. Shock waves, sound speeds, smells, and odors in the principal matter and transition matter environments are distinct from those in the matter universe. Once one trains and develops their senses to observe transition matters and principal matter, they can smell the principal matter and hear the noise of the transition matter interactions. These elements are integral to the structure of every living organism, as they form the plasma of every proton and electron in the universe's matter environment. Once understand the structure of the universe, it can be concluded that the universe will never end. There are no singularities and no cold ends to it, and no crunch, and only forever the universe will divide in plasmatic magnetic field strength and from one math to another, and then in fusing together they repeat the same process. And as the universal structure never can lose any of its fields through by its natural laws of conservation in physics, then only matters, and matters converts from one matter or matter-antimatter fluctuations to another form of matter-antimatter fluctuations, or matters and order of preservation of fields, and matters is obeyed even in the bigger universal order, as has been in the matter world, as has been studied in details over centuries. Creation is about energy preservation and conversion at every level of the universe. In the matter universe, for example, smell is only the diamond structure of the ore sp3 structure of the same atom in the gas state. Thus, in the principal matter environment, the principal matter possesses and has different states of matter, like the gas, liquid, and solid states of principal matter too. The same applies to principal matter, which includes molecules, atoms, and plasma. Therefore, principal matter emits sense, freezes, boils, forms clouds, and transforms into everything, as observed in the universe's matter environment. Then, the question arises: are cold and warmth the same in the matter universe as in the primary matter universe? The answer is undoubtedly yes. But the temperatures in these environments surpass human comprehension due to the strength of the plasmatic magnetic fields. When the strength of the plasmatic magnetic field decreases from the principal matter levels, it releases matter into the matter universe. These new matters have to find their physical magnetic gravitational interactions positioning concerning each other. This need for new positioning can cause things to move and space out, giving the illusion that the universe is expanding. Therefore, the limited amount of matter and the limited conversion rate from principal matter to matter restrict the increase in spacing or expansion, preventing the universe from exploding. When the universe's Margrave reaches a point where it can no longer maintain its current levels for creation and maintenance, it gently splits into two parts to ensure its survival, avoiding the loss of everything within the mother universe to other universes. The universal magnetic fields within the transition matter are the force that pushes the universe apart, and the gravitational fields within the transition matter bring the matters of the universe together and are the glue of the universe. The principal matter, antimatter, fluctuations, and matter fields interact with the universe to create both these forces, and the transition matter serves as their medium without significantly interfering, allowing these forces to maintain the universe's dynamic state. If the rate of changing the main magnetic fields reaches a level where there are too many energies in transition stages, that the rate of changing cannot create matter, antimatter, fluctuations with the right magnetic field strength, then the transition energy fields will interact, creating transition matter, which is an abnormal state that can sometimes lead to creation being out of balance. The universe contains magnetic and gravitational fields which trigger the sudden expansion of the universal magnetosphere at a certain point. When the universe cannot sustain itself, it divides, creating two or more universes. It is important to understand that the division of neutrons into electrons and protons typically occurs due to the sudden expansion of the neutron magnetosphere. The rapid transformation of the principal mass into transition energy triggers this expansion. This process results in the temporary formation of transition matter, creating a new, unsustainable magnetosphere condition. Therefore, the neutron undergoes division into electrons and protons. When the PMF of the transition energy reaches the universe's boundaries, just as it does in the planetary upper atmosphere and solar system heliosphere, it slows down and decreases in strength. The same principle applies to these transition matter-antimatter fluctuations, which rain inward into the universe from where they originated. At the edge of the universe boundary, just as cloudy Earth in its upper levels experiences showers of small plasmatic matters and matter-antimatter fluctuations, the universe appears to be raining inward. Therefore, upon observing the universe's boundary, one perceives a cloudy or hazy shell. In reality, this haziness is merely the remnants of weak forces and matter, much like clouds or dust particles in the planet's upper atmosphere. The same cloud systems also exist in the solar system's heliosphere, where most meteoroids and asteroids find their seeds and receive their regular matter and matter-antimatter fluctuations. As humans learn to traverse the boundaries of the solar system's heliosphere, just as they do when they journey to the moon today, these crafts will also encounter the misty, cloudy space at the solar system's edges. However, they must contend with challenges such as solar heliosphere re-entry, cloud dust, and other issues similar to those encountered during re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. On the edges of this universe, one will see weak PMF of matter and transition energy plasmas, and even one will observe the entry of other matter-antimatter fluctuations and maters and plasmas in all matter-antimatter fluctuations strengths and the entry of universal meteoroids from other universes and unicos, as one sees meteoroids and radiation entries into the Earth's atmosphere from the solar system and cosmos. There are universal lightings and universal meteoroids too. In fact, if the WMAP observers look for this, they will see another storm and lighting as these vast energies and large matter enter this universe at the edges of the universe, but they have registered these as hotspots in this map's outer boundaries. The existence of these short-lived hotspots will show that they are dynamic, live a short life, and have fast-moving energy, as happens when meteoroids enter the Earth's atmosphere. In reality, these hotspots on the edges of the WMAP should clearly indicate to man the existence of other universes and the greater universe. Just as Earth is a part of a solar system and a galaxy, so is this visible universe of man. The greater universe mirrors everything one sees in it. Today's scientific world has yet to fully understand one of the fundamental principles of universal energy. The scientific community needs to look into this fundamental principle of PMF magnification, which applies to the PMF of matter, energies, and especially universal energy. Let's assume that the scientific community comprehends how the universe harnesses its dynamism and inner content, which are dynamic universal energies, to enhance its power in operating this universe. In that case, wise men will understand that it doesn't require a significant amount of principal matter, or any matter, to operate this vast universe and transfer energy to all its distant corners. Today's scientific world is largely ignorant of this fact, and has yet to grasp the concept of magnetic layering and the dynamic universal energy principle. This has put man at a disadvantage compared to the technological advances of other travelers. Man of wisdom should look within to see the creation of their own being. They will come to understand how small amounts of matter, antimatter fluctuations, and magnetic fields have been creating conduction and energy transfer in their own structure without utilizing or using very little matter-antimatter fluctuations or matters, and then they will find the power of creation and its application and manipulation for untold usages. Later, they will understand that they don't need wormholes or fancy language to travel through the universe at the speed of their creator. This shall and will remain the mystery of existence until man learns not to trespass the boundary of others and learns the existence of balance and true peace within himself, his people, and his surroundings. One should understand the concept of multiple principal stars operating in one galaxy system, and their role in creating disk-like or spiral galaxies. The operation of visible and invisible principal stars in the universe is similar to that of twined solar systems and twin galaxies. In this case, the twined principal matter centers can discharge different PMF strengths based on their anti-Martial gravitational pull and the magnitude of the matter-antimatter fluctuations they may release to control their domain. The multi-principal matter centers have a fascinating potential for use in space travel, as they can create multiple jumping steps with differential and opposite dynamic directions of motion. The speed and protection created by these manipulations will allow humans to travel the length of galaxies and universes in minutes. But these technologies can potentially destroy everything, leaving only PMF for the creature's craft travels if things go wrong at matter-antimatter fluctuations levels. It should be noted that the shapes of the galaxies and their physical appearances should teach the power of the effect of the other matters and entities around them, as they will allow and pull and push these objects toward or away from one point or another, and hence allowing the appearance and the physical, visible structure of these celestial bodies to obey and have a given shape. This is important in the understanding that one has not to look at an entity but look at the surrounding area of the entity to understand the limitation of the operation and the shape of the matter, and matter-antimatter fluctuations internally and externally, as it is allowed by the environment of the entity for it to exist within a given point and time of a system, this being a planet, solar system, galaxies, or universal entity. Consistency with the PMF in the plasma of a proton, an atom, or the universe demonstrates the balance of all the magnetic field forces assigned to these entities at their creation. Therefore, observing a fast-moving object, such as the plasma of an electron in an atom or in a larger part of the universe, does not indicate that the universe is expanding or experiencing internal chaos within these entities. Therefore, the rapid movement of the universe's internal elements and mass does not indicate that the universe is expanding. Rather, it indicates that the universe is internally managing its mass by repositioning it to ensure its existence as an entity, while simultaneously maintaining its position, also known as universal magnetic gravitational interactions positioning, about other universes. Therefore, in this universe, matter and energy fields will move in one direction, while other fields will move in the opposite direction. Despite the visible expansion resulting from the conversion of matter to matter, the overall gravitational field forces of the universe remain unchanging. The universal order of preservation of fields will be maintained. It does not matter what is converted to what fields and matters, and the internal universal gravitational field strength will be maintained and preserved. Laws and conditions govern the universe, home to primary atoms and particles. Man has understood the structure of the atom and plasma of proton and other particles, and based on his observations of his universe, he believes the hydrogen atom is the simplest structure he can see. Over time, it will become evident that the creatures of the universe possess diverse structures. Until then, man must understand that the fundamental particles, unifying fields, and fundamental fields of the universe are simple magnetic fields, and their interaction and operation form the basis of the universe. At the same time, man must understand that all created entities in the greater universe have achieved a common method of communication, also known as the universal field of communication. These entities have successfully shaped their surroundings, engaged in individual or group interactions with other intelligent entities, and adopted a universally recognized communication language. This language, also known as the universe's language, depends not on voice, sound, or physical alphabets and shapes, but rather on the power of the PMF of diverse energies. The man will have to learn this language. He will be able to communicate with the other intelligent created entities in the universe once man learns to find peace within himself and reaches the understanding that they cannot trespass and cannot create division in the universe as they have been accustomed to on Earth to get their way and in achieving and attaining physical possessions, and that in the universe martial possession are nothing but the lack of man's understanding of his position and shortness of use of his intelligence. The universal language is transparent and clear. It operates based on the PMF wave strength, exhibiting standard forms and accepted communication levels that vary depending on the creatures and environments from which it originates. It's important to realize that not all intelligent beings in the universe require the same physical planetary structure as humans to exist or survive. Life exists in and within its fields without physical, tangible food or land, allowing it to exist, collaborate, and operate alongside others in the universe. As long as man tries to contact others through pictures and voices using current technological advancements, he will generally have to wait a long time for a response. Other intelligent beings have visited Earth since its creation and will continue to do so during its demise. Nevertheless, when a man discovers that he doesn't need to take more than he requires and doesn't need to instigate division to achieve his desires and provoke conflict, A universal language will be established, and communications will open up. The cause of the man's isolation from the universal community has been his lack of understanding that in the universal language, other creatures do not need to use words. Despite this, they can comprehend and interact at PMF field levels. Consequently, the man's thoughts, which operate at PMF levels within his brain, become visible to these creatures. As a result, they can discern and comprehend the true intentions of the man's actions without uttering a single word. Therefore, the protection of universal peace has forced man's isolation from the community, not his inability to communicate with other creatures. Warfare and conflicts have largely disappeared from the universe. As a result, once man understands the benefits of peaceful living, he will learn the universal language, allowing him to learn more and join the universal community of beings, regardless of their physical or outward appearances. Intelligence, not sight, is the key to understanding, and true sight is the observer's true will to appreciate the beauty of creation in all levels of universes. In the material world, for instance, the neutron always splits into balancing masses, and the overall gravitational positioning of two new masses ensures the neutron's existence and continuation in the same material world. This applies to the universe too. That universe will divide in mass, and as in the neutron, the lighter mass will have to follow the greater mass fields that force magnetic gravitational interactions motion, and hence the universe of the smaller mass will be more agile than the heavier mass. The smaller mass universe must follow the internal motion of its own mass and matter, while simultaneously determining its position about the overall mass of the larger universe and the overall dynamic motion of the mass and matter that the larger universe generates. Therefore, a snapshot allows us to observe the smaller universe. In the case of man's lifetime, which is over 1 million years, this universe may look as if it is stationary in its internal space. But in fact, it is following another larger universe at very high speeds to keep its position. At the same time, the universal centrifugal force of motion allows the universe to hold on to the content of its own matter-antimatter fluctuations and matters. All universes, like galaxies and solar systems, are in motion internally and about the other half of their mother universe, from which they originated. Detecting and realizing the direction of the universe's motion within its larger universe is easy. The directional motion of the universe's mass, which deviates from the normal direction of the universe's entire content, indicates the direction of the universe's motion. If we plan out the full motion of the universe's matter, we should observe a region moving in a completely arbitrary and independent direction. The universe's mass follows an independent directional motion due to its magnetic and gravitational connection, which locks it to the direction of its interaction with the magnetic gravitational interactions of its co-birth sister universe. The mass of the matter in this motion should indicate the extent and power of the magnetic gravitational interaction between the two universes. This mass moves 360 degrees, reflecting the dynamic nature of the co-birth universe and its unique magnetic gravitational interactions motion. The cosmologists of this universe have detected this independent zone of motion in the plasma, but they cannot explain why. Thus, the direction in which this mass in the universe is moving and positioned shows the position of the co-birth universe in relation to this universe. The co-birth universe will be located in the direction that this internal mass is moving, and the distance of this internal mass from the universe's edge will indicate the distance between the universe and its co-birth universe if and when man's scientific and technological achievements advance to the point where he can see through the universal magnetosphere. The universe does not measure heat and cold as we do in physics today. We measure heat by loosening the matter PMF, which creates a bridge to the atomic or molecular magnetosphere. Therefore, the Coulomb barrier in atomic physics refers to the degree of resistance or the tightness of the atom's magnetic gravitational interactions. In fact, man has to realize that if he unifies the terminology, he will solve most of the problems in the world of physics. For instance, by unifying the terms magnetosphere and Coulomb's barriers, we can recognize that they refer to the same properties and principles. One term illustrates the tightness of the magnetic gravitational interactions of the plantar system, while the other illustrates the same principle for the atomic structure. We can resolve this linguistic issue and gain a comprehensive understanding of all the processes that form the magnetosphere, regardless of the strength of the universal magnetic field, as we've previously discussed. Then, nuclear and theoretical physics will be effective in initiating and maintaining the fusion of all matter and magnetic fields in the universe. Thus, fusion does not need heat or speed to create and achieve fusion. The loosening of the magnetic gravitational interactions or dilution of the magnetic gravitational interactions of the matter-antimatter fluctuations and matters will lead to fusion and the creation of heavier elements without the need for elaborate accelerators and other gadgets that have become tools of advanced science today. The use of accelerators demonstrates a true lack of understanding of the scientific world regarding what these scientists are trying to achieve, and their misunderstanding of the universe's operation. The fusion processes within the stars, or principal stars, create heat as a byproduct. In fact, the heat aids in loosening the magnetic gravitational interactions and Coulomb's barriers, facilitating the fusion or mixing of various matter-antimatter fluctuations and matter plasmas. But it is neither the cause nor the result of the fusion. In today's fusion world, scientists strive to accelerate and collide plasma to achieve fusion. Still, in the universe, the reverse process happens, whereas in the universe, fusion takes place in the condensed center of the principal stars and matter stars, where there is no room for the plasmas to speed up, but due to loosening of the PMF forces magnetosphere of the plasma or Coulomb barrier, then matter mixes and fuse. If any extra plasmas don't need to be fused together, they show up and are released as extra unwinding PMFs of matter-antimatter fluctuations. This process of going from stronger to weaker matter-antimatter fluctuations is so fast that it shows up as heat in these universe environments as part of the process. Thus, we can explain heat in its true form as the PMF, which unwinds from one state of matter to another, releasing a PMF field that enables the other matter to open its magnetosphere and receive the PMF in transit from another plasma. When matter's PMF drops below the magnetosphere, it indicates that it cannot transfer any PMF to another substance. The point where the total transfer is zero is currently known as the absolute zero point. The scientists say there is no molecular movement at this point. In fact, the plasma of matter, or atoms, is still active and maintains its internal dynamic condition and environment. If this weren't the case, the magnetic fields that create the matter and atoms would have ceased to interact, causing the matter or atoms to lose their gravitational fields and magnetic fields. This would hinder the maintenance of the magnetosphere and atom mass, ultimately resulting in the disappearance of matter. However, since one can still observe matter at absolute temperatures, this indicates an interplasma magnetosphere connection rather than an internal magnetic connection. In fact, magnetic fields, being the principal particles or fundamental matters, can never cease to exist or interact with other fields. The universe contains other magnetic fields and fundamental elements. At all times, one matter or another attracts or repels all fields and matters, preventing a non-dynamic universe from ever existing. In fact, the fundamental difference in the universe's differential waves is responsible for creating the universe and the origin of the magnetic fields. Thus, the magnetic fields are created from the strength level difference in the universe, which is the cause of the universe's existence, and the source of the condition differential, which creates fields to compensate for this difference and entities to cover the position difference, which creates the magnetic fields. Thus, in simple terms, we now understand the origin of magnetic fields, whose variation leads to the universe's creation, and how the true essence of all creation came into existence. At absolute temperature, time stops for the matter and material world, but not for the matter-antimatter fluctuations and matter-antimatter fluctuations dimension. Therefore, If the universe solely consisted of matter and matter-antimatter fluctuations, the existence of physical matter in the deepest regions of the universe would have been impossible. The measure of coldness in the universe depends on the slowing down of PMF's movement in a given direction and strength. Therefore, the measure of coolness is dependent on external strength, not on the motion of the plasma's internal field. This explains why, similar to planetary systems, planets can produce independent temperatures, regardless of their location in the universe or the temperature of their surrounding planets and stars. Therefore, the absolute zero. In respect to matter, antimatter fluctuations and matter environment only applies to the Earth's position and environment, and not all universal conditions. This explains why life can exist under varying pressure and magnetic field strengths. Therefore, the absolute zero for matter-antimatter fluctuations and matter environment does not apply to principal, transition, and matter-matter-antimatter fluctuations and matter strength and environment. This is why internal atomic structures can exist, and atoms' matter-antimatter fluctuations can hold on to their structure and existence, while the molecular structure in the matter environment can be so cold that no external motion within the molecule's atoms can be observed at absolute temperature. When the magnetic gravitational interactions of the constituent matter environment reach total equilibrium in a given environment, the total losses and gains from the surrounding environments balance out. This lets the environment's total magnetosphere compensate for the losses and keep the total environmental magnetic gravitational interactions moving at zero speed. Conversely, we can decrease the environmental magnetic gravitational interactions to the point where atoms no longer interact, resulting in the cessation of atomic motion and freezing. We call this the Balance Magnetic Gravitational Interactions criterion, and the art of achieving it within the reactor structure is beyond human comprehension. Establishing colonies in the universe devoid of planets and stars as points of reference relies on the balance of magnetic gravitational interactions positioning, which enables the station to maintain a permanent position where all space passengers can meet. Creating an absolute balance enables man to hover in an environment without propellers or vertical jets, allowing them to remain stationary mid-air. In the future, spacecraft can stay in one place and have perfect magnetic gravitational interactions balance. This will enable the construction of an ideal gate structure, facilitating seamless transitions between different magnetic gravitational interaction system environments without encountering any issues when returning in either direction. The absolute balance functions and serves its purpose. The magnetic gravitational interactions technology systems function similarly to the physical doors we use today when transitioning from one magnetic gravitational interactions plasma environment to another. PMF distance and rotation speed determine the universe's velocity and direction of matter or plasma rotation. The arrangement of matter-antimatter fluctuations in the universe directly influences an entity's speed, timing, and location. It also determines the temperature difference between two entities about each other and their surroundings. The universe demonstrates this concept in the rotational direction of planets, stars, and galaxies, which vary from the other entities in their surroundings. The matter-antimatter fluctuations positioning criterion explains why, for example, the Venus rotates in a different direction from the other planetary systems in the human solar system. This is due to its internal PMF speed of rotation and its position relative to others within its internal structure. The combination of different core positions and their PMF strength forces the outer layers of this planet to rotate in a clockwise direction, unlike the rest of the planetary entities in this solar system. All matter in the universe rotates anti-clockwise, or what is commonly known as the electronegative-ness of the hydrogen atom's directional motion, according to this principle of the matter-antimatter fluctuations positioning and speed. Therefore, the strength of the magnetic fields within the proton and electron plasma and the relative positions of different magnetic fields within the plasma cause the plasma to move anti-clockwise. This concludes the current theory of electrons and positrons, where the sole distinction lies in the slightly different positioning of each entity's internal magnetic fields. Since the matrix contents of both electrons and positrons are identical, the positioning of these fields relative to each other solely determines the direction of the plasma's rotation. This variation in directional motion can also impact the absolute temperature of operation for positrons and electrons in various environments. Man, accustomed to time on Earth, does not exist in the universal language. The moment is an artificial phenomenon that gauges his life's journey. In reality, time is the measure of the PMF of a given strength to pass a given predetermined strength. Thus, time in the universal language is magnetic field strength and environment dependent. In primary manufacturing, the reduction time is significantly faster than in the same material environment. Therefore, time represents the same order of magnitude in the universe as the transition between strength levels. When we measure the universal positioning time based on the universe's central position, which we consider 0, and schedule it for a specific time, we must also account for the motion of all objects and matter in the universe relative to this point, which has a three-dimensional 360-degree reference. In fact, the universe requires 4 points of reference for measuring time: earthly time, solar time, galaxy time, and universal time. Time remains constant in environments with the same gravitational and magnetic field strengths. Accepting a fallacy that suggests that time speeds up in the universe as one moves away from Earth underscores this significance. This merely reflects hypocrisy and a deficiency in comprehending the creation of gravitational fields. This fallacy has come to a point where an error time has been allocated in today's satellite systems so that the satellite timing is adjusted concerning the position or location of a matter or entity on Earth. Indeed, if scientists fully comprehended the principles of matter creation and could generate the same G-strength forces in these satellites' electric and mechanical processing environment, their position in the so-called 1G environment would be irrelevant, negating the need for the correction factor they currently employ. In fact, the time correction factor is because matters in the different magnetic and gravitational positions around the Earth have and operate under different magnetic and gravitational field strengths, which is why there is a difference. Thus, to correct time in these systems, one need only create the same magnetic gravitational interaction strength on Earth to have no time difference. This concept is crucial for man's future space travels and universe excursions, particularly if he wishes to maintain his habitual 24-hour clock and the strength of his planet's gravitational magnetic field. Man will soon find and realize a simpler way, leading to the end of the hypocrisy surrounding time travel, wormholes, traveling to the past and future, and the so-called grandfather theory. It's important to remember that light, a plasma entity, travels in a spherical 360-degree universe environment. For instance, the features of a man's face emit light, allowing us to perceive it as a whole. However, over time, the universe's ever-rotating sphere absorbs and distorts light, making combining it with every aspect of a human face impossible due to numerous temporal gaps. Thus, if one hopes to see the past of one person in a revolving dynamic environment through one light, or make a machine go backward to see the face of its forefathers, this shows nothing but a lack of understanding of the science of creation and motion of light through the haze of the dynamic universe by these men of science. Like a telescope, light can pass information to the point of arrival, allowing one to see the structure of matters such as stars and fields in the universe's farthest reaches. Light can't bring back its source's past, but it can display its pattern as if it were a moving object when it left. In fact, light is a composite matter and entity, possessing an active complex PMF of different MAF types. This means that when one enters the principal matter environment, where the principal matter creates and controls magnetic gravitational interactions, one travels at the speed of its PMF, not that of tangible matter. If one considers the principal matter environment in the center of galaxies, It appears that time in the matter world is much faster, or that matter is moving thousands of times faster than the speed of light in these environments. Thus, the accepted time and speed of light as the maximum limit only applies to human understanding of the universe and is not considered the truth in the universe's real workings. When the human race comprehends the concept of using primary matter in their travel systems, they can travel into the universe at speeds significantly faster than the speed of light in the material world. Then, using the toy systems of today's jetliners, one can travel the length and breadth of the greater universe in seconds, just as one can travel the Earth globe. The question then arises as to why certain materials and entities in the universe, such as human life, can endure for extended periods despite their limited lifespan. The answer is simple. Man's body is made of matter, antimatter, fluctuations, and matters, and the more one adds, the more magnetic gravitational interactions exist to be lost to and affected by the surrounding magnetic gravitational interactions. Thus, a man's environment shapes his life, and as his DNA learns to preserve itself over time, it will contribute to his longevity. However, one entity in the universe does not possess eternal life. It is the entirety of the universe's facets and attributes. Thus, the attributes of man, not his body, will always represent him in all of God's universes. God is both a component of the entirety and a sliver of nothing. While the universe consists of matter, antimatter, fluctuations, and matters that differ solely in their strength, time moves faster in the stronger matter, antimatter, fluctuations field, for weaker matter-created entities, and more slowly in the stronger matter, antimatter, fluctuations field, for weaker matter field entities. Therefore, time in the universe is not real, but a human construct that determines one's position and possession. If one is in a universe where the matter-antimatter fluctuations are 1,000 times stronger than other matter-antimatter fluctuations, then time is 1,000 times faster for all matter-antimatter fluctuations and matters in creation. Understand that the magnetic rays released and prevalent in man's environment are the time setters for the degeneration and division of man's cells, and they directly affect man's lifespan in the universe. This is a valuable insight for individuals seeking to understand and pursue eternal life. What holds the universe together are its PMF contents, attraction and repulsion forces. Therefore, the tightness and position of matter in the universe depend entirely on the PMF strength. Therefore, when matter reaches its PMF strength at any given point in the universe, it manifests itself at that specific point and time in that particular part of the universe. Thus, the glue of the universe is a combination of all the matter, antimatter, fluctuations, and matters, whose interaction creates the magnetic and gravitational fields that govern the universe. As a result, the boson theory is based on how the magnetic fields of different PMFs, plasmas, and matter interact in different places in the universe. These interactions dictate the distribution and extraction of PMFs from the universe's soup of magnetic fields and the outcome and appearance of matter at a specific time. Thus, the universe can initiate a given PMF strength by combining several conditions, plasmas, and environmental magnetic fields. At that point in the universe, a specific given matter-antimatter fluctuations or matter exists. Matter-antimatter fluctuations or tangible matter, magnetic fields, strength, and so forth. This is the key to the universal existence and manifestation of all things and matters, and observations depend on the observer's belief in magnetic gravitational interactions strength, which states that anything can be tangible or visible. Similar to solid-state magnets in the plasma states of the magnetic field regions of the universe, these plasmas align and function through the north and south poles. The same goes for their attraction and interactions concerning other magnetic fields of all plasmas. That is to say, plasmatic magnetic fields position themselves as solid magnets do, concerning the strength and position of other plasmatic magnetic fields near and in their environment. Thus, The north pole of the plasma attracts the south pole of other plasmas, and at the same time, the south poles of the plasma keep and make distance from the south poles of other plasmas, as happens in solid-state magnets. In physical matter, one can observe the motion of magnetic fields and magnets relative to each other as they move and establish their positions within their respective environments once they come close. Once the two plasmas enter each other's magnetic field interaction, they create and maintain the same positioning and movements in their respective magnetic environments. The plasmatic magnetic fields of all entities can converge, allowing their respective fields to flow and determining the point at which these fields can re-enter to form a complete spherical plasma. The environment in which the entity's matter-antimatter fluctuations operate primarily dictates and decides this point of re-entry of the fields, not necessarily the strength of the entity's MAF. Solid matter's plasma fields terminate and re-enter at the environmental MF strength, not the matter. The environmental magnetic field strength, rather than the strength of the fields themselves, primarily determines the termination point for the magnetic field lines in plasma and solid matter, marking the beginning and end of a field line. Thus, magnetic fields can reconnect anywhere in the universe regardless of physical distance, because the environment supports and facilitates their entry and journey, not the entity's fields. The interaction of the two atoms' polarity change explains this phenomenon clearly. When one alters its polarity, the other immediately follows suit. We observe this phenomenon in the polarity changes of the entities in the plasmatic field. For instance, when one plasma changes its polarity, the other automatically undergoes the same parallel changes, preventing any visible changes in the structures of either entity. Similar to how the polarity of the Earth changes and the polarities of all living things synchronize, the planet's inhabitants cannot detect any physical change as the Earth's physical polarity shifts. Unlike most of Earth's polarity shifts, the Earth's moon's polarity remains constant. Understanding the principle of this phenomenon allows a man of science to produce any material anywhere in the universe as needed, whether it's gold or the amino acids needed to produce proteins for the human heart's chain of fibers in space for future travelers. Thus, one can control where the magnetic fields appear to draw in fields, traditionally referred to as the exit pole, and where the field exits to release the fields, the north pole of the matter-antimatter fluctuations. Then, one can control the size and length of the magnetic field and the gravitational and magnetic fields that any entity creates, thereby determining the size of the electron or proton's plasma. The total strength of the magnetic field and magnetosphere that an entity creates and can hold determines the dimension of the plasma, whether it is a proton or an electron. In principle, a field zone with the same length can interact to create a magnetosphere. But a magnetosphere with the same spherical dimension and different magnetic field strength can create a different magnetic gravitational interactions field zone. The magnetic field length determines the creation of an entity, such as a proton or electron plasma. Complex magnetic fields generate distinct field lines, leading to distinct magnetic gravitational interactions. This explains why we observe and detect different PMF and matter entities in the proton's plasma. In the larger context of universal works, scientists will soon realize that all parameters are identical. All plasmas operate and behave according to a specific procedure and sequence. Observing this universe's plasma is like observing proton and electron plasma. The content of the proton's plasma has been a source of puzzlement for theoretical physicists. Due to the universe's nature, various materials, fields, and field strengths should be present in the proton's plasma, electron's plasma, and the universe's plasma. Interestingly, scientists will soon study the creation and control of these magnetic fields, how they create different plasmas of magnetic fields, how plasmas become units of the same fields, and how a magnetic field can attract one plasma while repelling another from the same end or exit port. How can a solid magnet attract the opposite polarity and still attract another dissimilar polarity from the same pole? There is no concentration of plasma magnetic fields north-south or at the exit and entry ports. Instead of forming an end-to-end pattern, the plasma magnetic fields arrange themselves as either one of entry and one of existence, or as one north pole and one south pole neighbor. For instance, when examining the section slicing through the magnet cluster, we see the fields arranged correctly, resembling a mosaic of north and south fields. In the case of dynamic plasmas, such as protons, the top-view shape of the magnetic fields resembles a whirlpool, not the straight-line fields of the same mosaic. Next, comprehend the similar arrangement of the atom's nucleus structure, where an exit port sits adjacent to an entry port. When a nucleus has two protons, the in and out ports match, and the magnetic fields of the atom's internal magnetosphere are complete. The atom remains stable, but when it has two identical ports and one additional port in its nucleus, the extra port either shares its fields or searches for another port to receive its PMF. Therefore, when there are an odd number of proton nuclei, they are more receptive to receiving or dividing. This results in matching pairs of PMF entry and exit ports with unique magnetic plasma. In fact, single magnetic fields do not exist in the world of plasma, and in a way the theory string shows nothing but a lack of understanding of the operation of the fields in the universe. This elucidates why odd-number proton numbers undergo decay or exhibit a greater inclination towards polymerization or molecule formation. Where the entry port of the fields can take magnetic fields from the other ports or from the soup of the magnetic fields of its environment, and thus the size of the entry port of the fields, in principle, determines the matter and matter-antimatter fluctuations condition in a given environment. The entry point consumes a greater amount of energy than the fields that emerge from the exit port of the plasma. When fields interact, they form tiny contact points, dividing them into smaller lengths and strengths. When two bodies collide, their friction generates heat or fragmentation. This occurs when two magnetic fields interact, creating their respective magnetospheres and masses. Then, due to this friction between fields, the magnetic field entry into the South Pole is slightly weaker and less in mass than the total mass that originally entered the magnetosphere of the two fields in the South Pole. In fact, the small difference in mass and field strength between the open and closed ports causes the loop of fields between the North Pole and the South Pole to continuously close and open. This changes how the fields move within the structure of the matter and entity. The South Pole, also known as the entry port, serves as the feeder, while the North Pole, the exit point, serves as the provider. The small size of the magnetosphere in the fields enables numerous magnetospheres to connect and arrange themselves in a mosaic pattern within a single cross-section. Consequently, the North and South Poles, also known as the entry and exit points, position themselves adjacent. The stronger entry poles attract matter, while the stronger facing sections, the South Pole, repel it. This leads to the sequence of attraction of matter-antimatter fluctuations and matters in the universe. Both entry points must attract as many as possible, so they move to guarantee their continued supply of fields. This is why similar poles move away from each other, to allow the entry or exit of the same floor of the fields to have the maximum chance of attracting fields to guarantee their field supply. The dissimilar poles gravitate as the entry pole tries to absorb all it needs from the other entity's exit pole supply. Furthermore, the minute fields released from the interaction between the two fields separate and can travel a specific distance from the original two fields. These fragments' traveling distance capabilities also determine the magnetosphere region of the two interacting magnetic fields. The interaction of fields creates plasma, which requires a constant supply of fields from its environment. This explains why the fields can regenerate some of the fields that their interactions have released, and why the plasma of magnetic fields can persist for a long time in a specific environment. In a sense, the attraction or gravitational field forces arise from the necessity for the two interacting fields to remain locked. This necessitates a constant magnetic field supply in the universe, primarily met by stronger sources of fields and their unwinding of the principal magnetic field sources, scattered around the universe. For example, the larger plasma's needs, like the stars, are met by the cosmos' principal fields as they unwind, and in the micro levels, the need for weaker magnetic fields of atoms is met by the lower-level strength fields of their environment. Simultaneously, the magnetic fields can traverse a centrifugal region, intensifying their strength. This means the fields can lose strength through unwinding, but can also increase their strength through the same rewinding process. If the MAF fields are entered into a winding region or in a tighter packed region, their magnetic fields can be winded up so that the MAF's strength increases to the principal MAF's field strength. In the common language of modern science, the matter-antimatter fluctuations can become the principal matter-antimatter fluctuations strength, and the center of the tightening matter-antimatter fluctuations is the principal center of what modern science refers to as the principal region of the environment, which is found in the centers of cells, galaxies, or universes. Thus, if the environment can supply a surplus amount of the PMF for maintaining a given system's north and south poles, then there will always be an existing entity. It does not matter what word in the vocabulary is used to confirm its existence. Linking the fields at the entry and exit ports creates mass independent of other MAF entities in the environment. Mass refers to the number of fields needed from the environment for two fields, or the plasma of those fields, to interact. The interaction of the gravitational and magnetic fields creates the magnetosphere, which is the limit of the field's exertion in a given environment, where the magnetic fields are the cause and the gravitational and magnetic fields are the effects of their interaction. The interaction of the magnetic fields now becomes the cause of the creation of the entity's mass and magnetosphere, as the latter becomes the effect of the interaction of gravity and the magnetic fields. This is why the mass is independent of the environmental conditions and effects, as it indicates the given internal interactions and is due to internal processes of interaction of the same internal magnetic fields. Therefore, by considering and applying the environmental magnetic, gravitational, and magnetic fields to the given mass system, we can measure the weight or mass of the environmental field forces. Solving the puzzle of gravity's creation should expand scientific horizons and facilitate a deeper understanding of the universe's workings. The difference in condition and position initiates the entire world of creation, forming a field that allows the various positions to interact and connect. This is the origin of creation and magnetic fields in the universe. This movement, along with the need for fields to interact to traverse their environment space, leads to the creation of a phenomenon known as magnetic field flow. The extent of flow to cover strength difference and proximity to each other, trying to cross the gap to guarantee field flow continuity in the environment, become magnetic field current or strength, where the interaction of magnetic fields creates either magnetic repulsion or gravitational attraction. The interaction of these created magnetic fields with gravitational fields results in the creation of mass and a magnetosphere, one, for the respective magnetic fields. Depending on their strength, the interaction of magnetic fields creates stronger fields that connect to each other. Thus, the stronger fields serve as principal fields or feeders of matter-antimatter fluctuations, while the weaker fields serve as the matter-antimatter fluctuations fields of the universe. In the man's range of magnetic gravitational interactions strength of his protein, the weaker matter-antimatter fluctuations become tangible, visible, or detectable, and a part of his own being structure and his matter world is created. However, in other levels, due to stronger fields, the principal matter-antimatter fluctuations create a visible world for those whose protein magnetic gravitational interaction strength is set to a level beyond the man's matter-antimatter fluctuations strength level. Therefore, the universe is a collection and creator of magnetic fields, with varying lengths and strengths, and their interactions result in the creation of different magnetospheres with varying sizes and strengths in the universe. Whenever and wherever fields interact, they coagulate, link up, and create matter, antimatter, fluctuations, and matters of varying strengths. There are no empty places in the universe, no voids of magnetic, gravitational mass, and magnetosphere fields, nor are they in the path of field movement. Generally, we refer to the collection of tangible and visible magnetic fields as matter, while we refer to the fields in motion, not yet attached to any matter, as the universe's energies. The universe will never cease to exist as long as there are fields to attract and repel each other. The universe is not characterized by dark and unknown phenomena, but rather by principles and how they apply and enforce them. Next, we create a given condition, fields, and matter-antimatter fluctuations for a specific duration of field interaction, which we refer to as time. The Earth is not a unique environment that can provide and sustain life and intelligence. Nevertheless, life originates from the interactions between various fields. Because of how they interact and arrange themselves, they choose to be a club of plasmas, matter, antimatter, fluctuations, atoms, molecules, and combinations that are chemically and biologically bound over and over again. They also communicate in a biologically repetitive order to ensure the survival of their overall composition, and these interactions create intelligence. Therefore, man is not the only intelligent being in the universe. Given the environment of field interaction, entanglement is a facet of the progression of field interaction that can exist anywhere in the universe. It's fascinating to note that having a soul doesn't require intelligence, just as one doesn't need to see a star in the far reaches of the universe to understand its existence. Instead, the plasmatic magnetic fields released by the star during its existence have traveled and nourished the universe, eventually reaching the observer's position. It's fascinating to note that having a soul doesn't require intelligence, just as one doesn't need to see a star in the far reaches of the universe to understand its existence. Instead, the plasmatic magnetic fields released by the star during its existence have traveled and nourished the universe, ultimately reaching the observer's position. This also applies to the soul of man and its creation and movement across all dimensions of existence. It helps us understand nothingness, the soul's creation, and its fleeting existence in the universe. The beauty lies in the soul of the created being's survival. If it can give and receive without becoming an outcast, a man of wisdom will enlighten the man of possession, showing that one needs nothing more than necessities. Consider the wisdom of others and remain receptive to the various levels of interaction and attraction in your life path. Recent revelations have revealed the ultimate understanding for man, one of the universe's created entities. These revelations reveal that among those who have attained intelligence and navigated transitional environments, there are no animosities or wars in the universe. This rule will remain unchanged, as war and acts of aggression have been a habit of the Earth's inhabitants throughout their technological advancement and brief existence. Universal peace is not due to a lack of technology, but rather to the universe's intelligent beings' advanced intelligence, which makes them uninterested in conquering it. Thus, peace and justice rule the universe, and those who have a habit of favoring the blue blood from the blue planet will soon learn a lesson. Unless unity dominates the thoughts of these creatures, they will soon fall and follow the rules of the universe rather than the old habits of the feeble man. It's important to remember that the eternal inhabitants of the universe possess knowledge capable of eradicating all life, and the peace within the universal order is not a result of their own weakness. They possess the strength to recognize the short-sightedness of the recently joined members of the universal community, ensuring they cannot and will not continue their old habits of war, division, injustice, and exploitation, which they have grown accustomed to on the blue planet. Lionland will hold the universe's graceful and just laws. As promised, the knowledge of the universe will emanate from the land of the lion and the sun, illuminating the rest of humanity with equal measure and true powers of grace and justice. This has been the command of the created and shall be attained.